Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated, and I've got a great episode planned for you today. This is one that I'm incredibly excited about. I've been wanting to do this for a minute. So if you've already seen the thumbnail, you know exactly what direction we're headed into today. This is not a Laker video. This is not a video about Bronny. This is a video to celebrate another incredible team, dare I say, a dynastic team or franchise in the NBA. Some of your absolute favorite team out there. And so I know those of you who've tuned in are incredibly excited to see this one also and what I have to opine about the Golden State Warriors. But before we dive into the content, do me a huge favor, like this video. Liking the video helps us cruise along algorithm avenue, helps us get into the presence of individuals just like yourself who are interested in this kind of content. Also, subscribe to the video as well, or subscribe to the channel. Subscribing and clicking that notification bell keeps you in the loop and in the know as to when my newest episodes are uploaded. And man, oh man, without further ado, I want to dive right into this content. I'm entitling today's episode, Steph and Hemi Lead Warriors Resurgence. Yes, indeed. Shout out to Jimmy Butler. Congratulations on kind of strong arming your way out of Miami, bro, and getting into the situation that you wanted to be in. I had made some comments about Jimmy doing so in a previous episode entitled Analyzing the Most Impactful NBA Trades. And so what I want to do is I want to go back and share with you all about 5 minutes of commentary that I shared in that episode. That episode didn't get a lot of traction, unfortunately, here on the channel. But I just kind of broke down like all the most impactful trades that I felt we're going to affect, playoffs and seeding and teams, etc. Overall fit, with these players that were moved during the NBA trade deadline. But anyway, I want to go back into just the commentary surrounding Jimmy Butler and the Golden State Warriors before I get into today's content any further. I'm going to share with you also a article after doing so that I saw or read through on yahoosports.com. It is literally one of the best articles I've read in a very long time. So folks who enjoy learning and hearing new information, man, you're really, really, really going to love that article. So stick around for it. But before we do that, again, I want to get into, this clip from a previous episode, and then I'll come back and I'll share my opinions and the article. Let's take a listen.
So, according to the WashingtonPost.com, Jimmy Butler, they think, is a winner, as they're talking winners and losers of the day. Butler has proved the depth at deploying hardball tactics to navigate from team to team throughout his career. This time, he clashed with Heat president Pat Riley, missed a team flight, and left a shoot-around early, drawing 3 suspensions in less than a month. Those antics threatened to cost him $4.7 million in salary, but they paid off with a trade to the Warriors and a new 2-year, $121 million extension. Go Jimmy. Miami did well to recoup Wiggins and a first-round pick, among other assets in the deal. However, Butler ultimately won the game of chicken because his unprofessional behavior didn't compromise his earning power. I can agree with that. Jimmy Butler came up. He got the extension that he wanted. I think that part of the biggest conflict would be, these days, and even in the Jimmy case, from what I understand, is he was disappointed that the Miami Heat wouldn't offer him an extension. And so if that interferes with your mindset, mental, etc., and planning for the future, I can understand that. But with respect, you're still signed to a contract for the next 2 seasons. You're still obligated to do a job based on the contract. You know what I mean? So this well, get me out of here. Then a weird behavior around. It's like childish, bratish behavior, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So I didn't really understand. I don't really understand the breakdown in that sense. But this has just been Jimmy's MO. You know what I mean? Throughout his whole career. So Golden State's a buyer, according to the article. Still, the Warriors' messaging has been all over the map in recent months. They want to improve, but they don't want to mortgage their future. They know they're on the decline, but they want to do something to shake up an uninspiring season. But they don't want to give away their young prospects. Finally, Golden State decided to gamble on the 35-year-old Butler, lavishing him with a contract that averages more than $60 million over the next 2 seasons. While the Warriors didn't give up too much to the Heat in the trade, their willingness to extend Butler at such a high number reeks of desperation. Butler will help Golden State on both ends, I agree, but he is no longer good enough to transform the Warriors from a mediocre team to a contender. That I don't agree with. I'll get into it a little bit more here in a second. But with Curry, Butler, and Draymond Green all in their mid-30s, the Warriors are locked into an aging core with a relatively low ceiling, and their pre-existing depth concerns will be stretched further after the trade. The good news, Curry's chances of reaching the playoffs have improved, and that counts for a lot. The bad news, it came at a steep price, and it remains to be seen how well Butler's game and personality fit with the Warriors. It does remain to be seen that I can agree with. But like I said, I wanted to get into my opinion on what Jimmy Butler and how Jimmy Butler, in my opinion, does fit in with the Warriors. Do they fit in with the style of play of Golden State championship teams? No, they do not. But I think that what Jimmy brings is an ability to get a bucket. So if Jimmy, based on them bringing in Wiggins over the last couple years, not really being able to rely on Clay as that additional splash brother with the propensity to do what he had been doing at a high level, had just kind of settled into a very valuable contribution from a Andrew Wiggins. I think Jimmy's more of a guaranteed bucket than Andrew Wiggins, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Jimmy can get you the tough buckets. Jimmy can go on a tear and get you a flurry of points as well, as he's been known to do. He's very hard-nosed, tough, you know what I mean, gritty, defender, and offensive player. Jimmy can hit free throws as well, you know what I'm saying? So Jimmy brings to the table 17 points a game, a 17-point per game average this season so far, 5.2 rebounds, nearly 5 assists on 54% shooting. I think those numbers will certainly be in a space to go up in Golden State as he becomes the second option, right? So I think that Jimmy will finish with a over 20, obviously like 22, 23 point per game average out there in Golden State. He definitely is a benefit to the team. Obviously, you have Jonathan Kuminga, who's a bit banged up right now, but who will be back. You have Moses Moody and Pajemski and Buddy Hield and these other guys that come in to contribute, right? And that's all well and good, but if Steph happens to need a game or two here or there, they really don't lose anything with regard to Jimmy still being able to contribute offensively enough to help keep them afloat. And Jimmy's a great passer as well. Really, as people always like to harp on, his just high basketball IQ. Jimmy can ball, bro. He knows what he's doing out there. You know what I mean? He's not a selfish player by any stretch of the imagination, and he does involve his teammates. So I think Jimmy's a perfect fit for Golden State. I can hear the question coming through the camera, though. What about Jimmy and Draymond? I don't think that there's anything about Draymond Green's career that would suggest that he has conflict with his teammates on the court outside of his barking situation that took place with Kevin Durant. And that was just situational, heated in the moment. Like, man, off the court, he punched, you know what I mean, popped off on a homeboy. I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, he popped off on a teammate, you know what I mean, which was recorded, which got a whole bunch of hoopla and press and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But outside of that, man, I think Jimmy and Draymond have a similar passion for the game, also a similar passion for getting other people involved and for playing off of each other. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how Jimmy Butler fits in Golden State.
Man, we've got a really, really good sample size of, or for me anyway, you know what I mean, to temper my excitement of seeing Jimmy Butler in a Golden State uniform and seeing how he fits in. We've gotten a 20 game sample size so far thereabout. So it's proven to be a really, really good pairing, as I said. Now I want to go back, say something really quick. So I kind of 1x or 1.25 speed my voice there to just get through that clip as quickly as possible. Before I dive into this article, I just want to give you a heads up. I'll probably do the same thing through the article because the article is rather exhaustive. And so, but there's a lot of really, really good information in the article. So if you kind of get lost in the sped up version of me reading through the article and you just want to pause it and zoom in and read the article for yourself, you can totally do so, or you can look for the article on Yahoo or sports.yahoo.com and read through it yourself. But there's a lot of really, really, really good information in this article. And so I want to dive into the article as not to drag this video out and make it any longer than it has to be. I'm sorry. I wanted to go back before I get into this article and say one of the statements that I made in that in that video clip from the previous episode was that I thought Jimmy's from his 17 point per game average in Miami would elevate in Golden State. I do not have an issue saying, man, I was totally off on that, right? I was more or less thinking about Jimmy as coming in to still be a bona fide number two option, as opposed to the other elements of Jimmy Butler's game, which I spoke about, being able to facilitate, being able to defend, being able to efficiently get a bucket, etc., which this article will go into as well. And then I consider that if he came out and did the oh yeah, yeah, you don't have Clay anymore, Steph. I'll be your Clay. You know what I mean, so to speak. Not so much as just shooting threes, but asserting himself more offensively. Where Jimmy, as a team player, came in. For those who have been paying attention, he came into Golden State and just settled into a role. He was cool to just like, hey, y'all don't have to really run plays for me. I'll figure it out, which speaks to his acumen as a basketball player and that high basketball IQ that I mentioned in that clip. So anyway, I want to dive into this article. Let's get right into it. The article, again, from yahoosports.com, sports.yahoo.com, was penned by senior writer Dan Devine, and the article is entitled How Jimmy Butler is Elevating the Warriors as a Title Threat. This version of the Warriors always needed something. Its formula relied heavily on elite defense and the magic of Stephen Curry, with little else in the way of dependable offense. Even when it exploded out of the gate with a 12-3 start, Golden State scored at bottom five clip whenever Steph took a seat. That was the idea behind the Warriors' midsummer trade for Dennis Schroeder, to try to inject new life into what had become a bottom third offense and to make the latest in a long line of attempts to staunch the bleeding rather, whenever Curry stepped away. But despite the post-trade insistence that a high pick and roll playmaker would be a beneficial addition to a team that under head coach Steve Kerr has, sometimes obstinately, eschewed over reliance on the most popular play in basketball, Schroeder didn't fit in, averaging 10.6 points per game on 38, 32, 74 shooting splits. The Warriors were outscored by 9.9 points per 100 non-garbage time possessions, with Schroeder on the floor, according to Clean the Glass, continuing to score at a basement-dwelling level when he operated while Curry sat. The Schroeder acquisition was a half measure, and by the time the February 6th trade deadline rolled around, with the Warriors sitting at 500, tied for ninth in the West, it was clear that a half measure wouldn't do. No. If you want to move the needle, you need a needle mover. And whatever else he might be, Jimmy Butler is most certainly one of those. After knocking off the Knicks on Saturday night, Golden State enters Monday's nationally televised matchup with Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets at a 14-2 since adding Butler and 14-1 in games in which he plays. He missed a loss to the 76ers with back spasms. The post-trade uptick includes the Warriors' first 7-game winning streak since the 2021-2022 season, which, as you might remember, ended with Golden State hoisting the Larry O'Brien Trophy. I want to say really quickly, this article was actually penned a week ago or so. So this is an old article, but it just contains so much good information that I wanted to share. So notice why speaking a week ago in terms of the Saturday night game, Monday versus Denver, etc. The article is not a brand new article, but it's about 7 days old. Butler hasn't overwhelmed opponents with superstar production, averaging a fairly modest 16.4 points, 5.7 rebounds, 5.9 assists, and 1.3 steals in 31.7 minutes per game in Golden State. I say fairly modest because there are only 8 players hitting those numbers this season. He's struggling to get a shot online. He's missed 19 of his 27 three-point tries since the trade and made just 51.3% of his attempts in the paint as a Warrior, down from 61.2 in Miami earlier this season. His overall impact, however, has been immediate and clear. Butler's producing 0.211 win shares per 48 minutes in Golden State, the only players topping that mark while using at least 20% of the team's offensive possessions are MVP frontrunners Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, all NBA if not for injuries, big man Anthony Davis, and rising Cavaliers all-star Evan Mobley on the season. Jimmy's averaging 17.3 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, 5.5 assists on about a quarter of a block per game in 31 minutes a game. The Warriors have outscored opponents by a healthy 11.3 points per 100 with Butler on the floor, according to Clean the Glass. Overall, they're boasting a plus 12.3 points per 100 net rating since the trade, second best in the NBA in that span, with the Dubs fielding top 5 units on both ends of the floor since his arrival and looking an awful lot like a team that found what it was looking for on a few different fronts. I agree. Draymond Green was looking for, as one team source described it to The Athletic, another asshole. A maniacal, unflinching competitor capable of helping restore the defensive snarl that has characterized the dynastic Warriors nearly as much as the shooting of Curry and Klay Thompson. Jimmy is one of those. It's no wonder that the deal left Green feeling emboldened to immediately start making grand championship proclamations. If you can remember, during All-Star Weekend, during the broadcast, as Draymond Green joined in with the other analysts and commentators for the weekend's festivities, he actually went on to say boldly that the Golden State Warriors will, in fact, win the championship this year. And I don't agree with everything Draymond says. I don't agree with 99% of the things that Draymond says. That's not a slight to Draymond. I say some things clearly that I go back on. I don't agree with him either. You know what I'm saying? But I'm inclined to understand at least that Draymond is not really that far off in his bold prediction. Kerr was looking for a shock to the system powerful enough to disrupt what he'd come to view as an increasingly maddening malaise. I snap every handful of games, Kerr told Logan Murdoch of The Ringer earlier this season. I fucking lose my mind and I go crazy in the locker room. Nobody out here sees it, but I smash a clipboard. I've slammed my fist against the wall. We hate losing. We're not used to it. In Butler, a bona fide two-way star with the outsized personality to match, Kerr found his defibrillator. Sometimes you've got to shake things up. And we shook things up, Kerr said. It just so happened that one of the best players in the league was available. Not just one of the best players, though. Also, one who can elevate a team without needing to dominate it. Since Butler made his Golden State debut on February the 8th, 445 NBA players have averaged at least 5 minutes per game. Among that group, Butler ranks 10th in the league in front court touches per game, but just 58th in average time of possession, 105th in average seconds per touch, and 154th in average dribbles per touch. Not a ball-dominant cat. Butler doesn't require an architecture purpose-built for him. He moves the ball and his body, screening and cutting and probing for advantages. When he doesn't find them, he doesn't force them, keeping the machine whirring and living to fight another day. He's a threat the defense has to account for when a shot goes up. 36 of his 85 rebounds in Golden State have come on the offensive glass, and a steady hand at the wheel of the offense with a very strong 88 to 21 assist to turnover ratio through his first 15 games in blue and gold. 80 assists to 21 turnovers, that's like what is that? 1.224? Right, that's like one, that's like four. I'm sorry, that's for every one turnover, that's like 4 assists. It's a little better. You know what I mean? So, man, shout out to Jimmy, who definitely protects the ball as well. Honestly, in the most humble way possible, I'm a good fit everywhere, Butler recently said. He addresses Golden State's need for paint touches. Prior to the trade, no Warrior averaged more than 8.8 drives to the basket per game. One reason why they ranked 26th in the share of their shot attempts that came at the rim. Butler's provided a fresh dose of rim pressure, driving to the cup a team high 12.2 times per game and helping boost the Warriors up to 15th in rim rate since the trade. He gives them another ball handler capable of creating advantages in isolation, including the plays where he passes out to a teammate. The Warriors are scoring a scorching 1.23 points per possession that features Butler attacking one-on-one, according to Synergy, a critical bailout resource for making somewhat out of nothing when Kerr's motion offense stalls. Butler also adds more variety and spice to the Warriors' offense by giving Curry, Green, Brandon Podziemski, and company a new partner in the two-man game. One who can calmly read the floor after receiving the ball in the roll, pick out the appropriate pass in space, and knock down shots on the short roll. He's ranked in the 90th percentile or better in points produced per possession as a roll man in the pick and roll in 3 of the past 5 seasons, according to Synergy. He gives Kerr a new weapon to deploy in punishing switching defenses by slipping screens to beat scrambling defensive rotations or by dumping the ball into the post for him to operate. Butler can survey the floor as Golden State's guards go into their familiar split actions and deliver the ball to cutters, drive the lane, and kick out to open shooters, or just go to work playing bully ball on the block. He scored 44 points on 35 post-ups this season, 1.26 points per play, according to Synergy, shooting 17 for 29, that's 58.6% from the floor on those plays. Very efficient. Crucially, Butler also offers an answer to the age-old question of where the Warriors can turn when they can't turn to Curry. For most of the season, and really ever since Kevin Durant headed east, Curry needing a breather meant the Warriors' chances went on life support. Over the last few weeks, though, those perilous stints have given Golden State a new lease on life. Before the Butler trade, the Devils were getting outscored by 2.9 points per 100 with Steph on the floor. Since bringing Jimmy in, though, they're now plus 9.9 points per 100 in non-Steph minutes, and a stellar 18 points per 100 when Butler's on the floor while Steph takes a siesta. The plus-minus tells the whole story. Curry recently told reporters. Totally different than what it was before, where you felt a little pressure to create separation because we were trying to fill some holes in those minutes. That pressure has been alleviated somewhat by Butler's gift for grift. The Warriors are 28th in free throw attempt rate before he joined the team, and they're 5th since. 28th in free throw attempt rate before Jimmy Butler, and now they're fifth in free throw attempt rate. That's crazy. With Jimmy ranking just outside the top 10 in the league in personal fouls drawn and free throw attempts per 36 minutes to help keep the offense afloat. The Warriors have also helped their cause by cranking up the pressure they apply on the defensive end, conceding just 104.8 points per 100 in Jimmy no Steph minutes, and a mere 98.5 points per 100 when Butler shares those minutes with Green and Podziemski in a frenetic, tough, active, and physical defensive group. Podziemski has missed the last 4 games with a lower back strain. The Warriors lead the NBA in steals since trading for Butler and rank third in deflections and 10th in blocks. They've gone 7-0 with Kerr shifting to a small ball starting five, Green at center with Butler, Podziemski, and Moses Moody on the wing, and Curry at the point. That has outscored opponents by 42 points in 87 minutes. They've also won 3 straight in a larger configuration that slots rookie stretch 5 Quentin Post into Podziemski's spot and drops everyone else down a position. With more quick and disruptive players on the court, the rate at which the Warriors are forcing turnovers has spiked from 14.6% of opponents' trips before the trade all the way up to 17.6%, most in the NBA in that span. A really gritty defense they're playing. I can agree from the games that I've watched them play. A player like Butler, 6'7", 230 pounds, with the strength and quickness to guard all along the positional spectrum and impeccable defensive instincts, gives Kerr and defensive coordinator Jerry Stackhouse more options to toggle through in pursuit of stops. The Warriors have played more zone since Jimmy's arrival. According to Synergy, 76 of the Golden State's 126 zone possessions this season have come since the trade, only 50 before Jimmy, 76 since, and have played it more effectively, giving up just 60 points on those 76 trips, 0.79 points per possession, which would be by far the stingiest rate of any team going zone at least once per game over the full season. At age 35, Butler might not be quite as smothering at the point of attack as Dub's former top stopper, Andrew Wiggins, but he can still guard pretty much anyone on a given possession. Muck plays up as a low man patrolling the back line and is at his best playing free safety to blow up actions and put out fires, a skill set pretty similar to Green's. As it turns out, having 2 of those guys is better than having just one. Golden State has allowed 108.5 points per 100 non-garbage time possessions with Green and Butler on the court, a mark that will rank second in the NBA over the course of the full season. Tally up the buckets Butler scores, the ones he generates via assists, and the ones he opens up with his screening, and he's been responsible for 39.9 points for the Warriors per 36 minutes of floor time, using the points created metric cooked up by Zach Cram, now of ESPN, more than any Warrior but Curry, 45.2 this season. Add up the department by department improvements since he joined up: more trips to the free throw line, more offensive rebounds, fewer turnovers committed, more turnovers forced, and you see a team thriving by consistently giving itself more bites at the apple. Before the trade, the Warriors were generating 2.1 more possessions per game than their opponents, according to the analysis by Jared Dubin at Last Night in Basketball, a strong margin, one of the 10 highest in the league. Since adding Jimmy, though, that margin has skyrocketed to a whopping plus 7.3 possessions per game. Wow. Tilt the table like that, and you're going to win a lot of games, especially when you get number 30 going, which, of course, is the most important element of the infusion of Butler into the Warriors' bloodstream. I'm going to back up really quick just to address that, the stat from the first paragraph here. The Warriors were generating 2.1 possessions more per game than their opponents, but since Jimmy Butler has arrived, they're generating now 7.3 more possessions, 7.3 more opportunities to score than their opponent. That's incredible, bro. That is incredible. That's incredible. After averaging 23 points on .567 true shooting over his previous 20 games, about 57% true shooting, seeming to wear down under the weight of constant double and triple teams without anybody to ease his burden, Curry has averaged 28.6 points on a scorching .679 true shooting percentage since the trade, looking for all the world like a rejuvenated monster. The man is dunking, for goodness sakes. He was dying to be back in the mix, Kerr recently told reporters. Now we're back in the mix. He's energized by that. Yes, we're still early in the Jimmy era, still beholden to small sample size caveats and to reminders that some of the Warriors' best post-trade wins have come against opponents missing some of their most important players, the Bucks without Giannis, the Rockets without Fred VanVleet, the Mavericks without centers. Still, the early returns have been stellar, and with the Warriors having now vaulted up to sixth place with the 5th easiest remaining schedule in the West, multiple projection systems now give them a 65 to 70% chance of escaping the play-in. So much depends on matchups, but the Warriors wouldn't fear a meeting with the likes of Memphis or Houston. And find yourself in a style makes fights clash with a Nuggets team with a shaky defense, a Lakers team potentially still reintegrating a post-growing strain LeBron James, or even the dominant but young Thunder. Who knows what could happen? This is all Curry's been asking for, a real chance, a shot at relevance late in the season, to play meaningful basketball in spring, to have a reason to believe. I want to win. I want to be competitive, Curry told Murdoch earlier this season. Doesn't mean you're going to be the odds-on favorite to win a championship. You just want to have a situation where you can be in the conversation. That's what we all want. It's what we all deserve. And it's what they're trending toward. Getting Jimmy Butler might be a good fit anywhere. He's a great fit, though, for a team that needed a reason to believe. So again, that article was written by Yahoo, or was published on yahoosports.com at sports.yahoo.com. And very lengthy article, but I definitely wanted to get into it because of all of the gems that were shared. I want to give credit to Dan Devine for penning it and for taking the time to add all those statistical gems and tidbits. Man, that article was chock full of like kind of everything that I wanted to do research on my own to find. But as I read through the article, I was like, well, there's no need of me to do any research. He's already done all of it. It's right here. Because I was just curious as to what Jimmy's actual impact has been to or for the Golden State Warriors as a team, not just because they've strung together wins. And speaking of wins, since February the 7th, trade deadline was February the 5th, I believe they said. So Jimmy's first game, his debut was on the 8th. But since the 7th of February, according to statnews.com, the Golden State Warriors have a 16-4 record. Two of the games, two of those four losses that actually were most recent losses that they dropped here over the last couple of days or so. Mainly is that Denver game that they mentioned in the article. They dropped that game, so they have dropped just 4 games in 20. Man, that is an incredible stretch of victories, given one piece being added to the team. That is amazing. Jonathan Kuminga recently returned from his long injury that saw him out for a while, so still trying to reintegrate him. Very active, you know what I mean? Like very athletic in terms of his ability to get off the floor, to be a disruptor, to be another rebounder, also to be another a scorer and scoring threat as well. With his athleticism, he's added a bit more of an outside touch, so that should bolster well for Golden State. Pajemski, as the article stated, at the time was out with a back strain. I'm not sure if he's back yet or not. We'll get a chance to see it actually tonight. So this actual episode is perfect because tonight, heading into tonight's action, it will be Golden State taking on Jimmy's former team, the Miami Heat. So we'll get a chance to see what Jimmy looks like as he faces off against his former team tonight. So a team that is very much so well aware of Jimmy's propensity to do one thing or the other, positively or negatively. So a team that definitely, especially given that head coach Eric Spoelstra is a film guy. He started out in the film room for Miami. So I'm certain that even he is, even though he coached Jimmy for a number of years, he's paid attention to the kinds of things that Jimmy's been doing in Golden State. So this should be a really, really good chess match tonight. I am certainly looking forward to it. Let's talk about the remaining schedule. I just mentioned, obviously, in speaking about tonight's game, that they face off against the Heat here shortly. And then on Friday, they face off against the Pelicans before Sunday turning their attention and focus on the banged up San Antonio Spurs. They get the Grizzlies on Tuesday, who are still fighting and playing, scratching their way and clawing for playoff respectability as well in the standings out west. They take on the Lakers also on Thursday, who are doing the same. And then they take on the Nuggets once again after that. And then the last 5 games of the season see them squaring off against the Rockets, against the Suns, Spurs, again, Trailblazers, who haven't quite been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs just yet. But, we'll see kind of where they stand in the standings, obviously, by that time. But I'm sure those kids will still be playing for something. The Warriors certainly with where they're positioned and where they are. I don't think any of these games will be like just rest our players, get kinds of games. And I'll get into the standings here in just a second. But then they close out the season against the Clippers, both the Warriors and the Clippers. This game, may very much so have such a critical outcome on the actual standings. But speaking of the standings, let's take a look at those really quickly. Presently, as we record this episode, Oklahoma City is dominating the league right now with a 59-12 record. So they sit at number one. Houston's at number two in the West. Denver at number three with a 1-game lead over the Lakers. And the Memphis Grizzlies have a 2-game lead over the Golden State Warriors at the present rather, with a literally just a 2-win differential in, obviously the wins and loss column, with 11 games remaining here in the regular season. This can totally flip. I mentioned that Golden State Clipper game to close out their schedule for the regular season, having very, very, critical implications on standings. As it stands right now, there's only a 1-game difference separating Golden State and the Clippers. You know what I'm saying? So, man, that game, all these games, this is like my favorite time of the year, obviously, for the NBA. So the standings, definitely give credence to why, because I just like to see the jockey and then the position. And I watch the full season, though. I'm not just like, oh, I only tune in during this time. Clearly, if you've been paying attention to this channel, but this is my favorite time because it really separates the mice from the men, in my opinion. So, but anyway, Minnesota presently sits at 8th. I am incredibly still just not really shocked at Minnesota because I've watched them play so many times on national television this year, but I'm just disappointed. You know what I mean? Like, man, the cat trade just screwed them all up. You know what I'm saying? Like it did not benefit them to get Julius Randle out there, but maybe they'll turn the page here. You know what I mean? Their defensive effort has been getting has improved a whole bunch, but this is not a Minnesota not a Minnesota episode. Sacramento at 35-36 sit at number 9. Phoenix at number 10 in the West, tied identical record with Dallas at 35-37. They must hold a tiebreaker there or something or another. But as I mentioned, that Portland hadn't been mathematically eliminated. Neither has San Antonio, technically. So if De'Aaron Fox and Wemby were still healthy, man, San Antonio very well could have. I mean, I don't see why they would not have, given the parity here and just a few games. I'm certain that Wemby and De'Aaron would have been able to help them win, a couple games through these last 20 or so. So that would have been something to see. But next year for them. Anyway, back to Golden State. I wanted to highlight one thing from the standings here, and that's just the previous 10 games. So all the way here at the end, for the Golden State Warriors, in their last 10 games, they are actually a very red hot 8-2. So are the Clippers, having won 8 of their last 10. Houston presently and Oklahoma City have won a scorching hot 9 of their last 10. But not to be undone, Minnesota's won 7 of their last 3. So of these teams that are fighting to get in, Phoenix has won 6 of their last 10. 6 drop 4. But I brought up the last 10 for a reason, because I just wanted to highlight one point before we get out of here. Golden State having 11 more games remaining, 11 games remaining. And this next 11, they string together a similar stretch of 10 games, 11 games, just like this, where they go 8-3. You know what I mean? Or they go 9-2. Maybe they won all 11. I don't know. My point is, in the last 10 games, they've gone 8-2. If they duplicate this and just hold court, they could very well move up the ranks into a strong into that 4-5 position in the playoffs and outside of play-in, which you know what I mean? Like outside of play-in, scare, which I think will be really, really good for them. I don't want to see Golden State in the play-in. You know what I mean? And I certainly, at this stage of just how they look, or where they are in the standings. I don't want to see them if the playoffs were to start today. I mean, I wouldn't want to see Golden State face off against Denver. I would rather see Golden State, and I'm certain Laker fans would rather see a Golden State Laker matchup in the first round. I think that would be a more interesting series to watch. And do I believe in one team over the other? Well, certainly I believe in Steph. I believe in Steph and Golden State because they actually do play consistently, you know, a defensive way. They have an identity. And Jimmy certainly helps to give them that grit. Draymond helps to, you know, bring an edge to that team. So I am hopeful that they will continue the winning as they have been, and I don't see why they wouldn't, barring injury. But that's barring injury for everybody. So knock on wood, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. You know, health is wealth. Praying for health for everybody down the stretch. But back to the Golden State Warriors here in closing. I do want to celebrate, you know, Steph Curry and give him his flowers before we leave out of here. The the widely understood greatest shooter in the history of the game recently, you know, knocked down his 4,000, but now 4,000 plus, you know, since 3-pointers in his career. It is remarkable to have been able to watch this kid from Davidson all the way up through the NBA. It's not even that in Davidson, he was just a remarkable player to watch, even then on that level, so small, just crazy undersized. You know what I mean? Little bubblehead kid running around out there. And to watch what he's been able to do in his NBA career has just been it's been a pleasure. You know what I mean? So I am grateful that I was alive to actually witness it myself. I promise. I have not taken it for granted. I've been around for quite some time, and I've seen some incredible basketball players, man, some amazing shooters, and I'm not talking about on the NBA level solely. Shout out to, you know, the Childress brothers, man, from my high school years, like some dudes who could just shoot the rock, man. They could just shoot the basketball, and like every time that they shot the ball, you just felt like it was going to go in because they were so proficient at shooting. That is who, you know, Steph Curry has become in the NBA. He is literally the only player that I watch. Like when he shoots the ball, I expect it to go in every single time. It's unrealistic, I know, but I just expect the basketball to go in every single time he shoots it. It's the weirdest thing, man. And you know, weird based on his proficiency and his ability over the years. He has spoiled us. And so shout out to Steph, man. Congratulations, brother. So as I was saying before, to win another championship. You know what I mean? I'm totally rooting for you. And it's not a hot take for me. I do believe that the Warriors have just as good a chance as anybody else entering the playoffs healthy. You know what I mean? Like anything can happen. Can't just say like the number one seed's gonna win just because they're the number one seed. We watched Mutombo's number 8 Denver Nuggets back in the day knock off Seattle. You know what I'm saying? So who were the number one seed? So anybody can get it. You know what I'm saying? Anybody can get it when the playoffs start, man. It's about matchups and it's about heart. Shout out to my former high school coach, rest in peace to Doc Robinson, who would say, it's about desire. You gotta have desire. So it's about who has the biggest heart and who desires it the most. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's gonna boil down to. But back to that prediction. If Steph Curry and the Warriors are actually able to put it all together, man, and to win a championship. I mean, they just continue to do the things that we saw in this article. I'm telling you, if they could just continue, this will no question be the Steph Curry era. No argument. He will have won more championships than anybody in his era. This will be the Steph Curry era of basketball. I already feel like it is. You know what I mean? Regardless, but that's a whole nother episode. That has been the basis of this one, man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much for your time. Like the video if you haven't done so already. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel as well. May take this ride with us even further. Have some exciting, upcoming episodes to produce for you guys. Got some ideas for some amazing ones. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until then, take care of yourselves. Blessings.